will need to disclose if any other individuals 18 years of age or older present in the room at the remote location, and the general nature of the member's relationship with any such individuals. For our commissioners online, are there any disclosures for members attending via Zoom?
No such disclosures.
No disclosure, thank you.
No disclosures.
Student liaison, almost, is there any disclosures that you would like to make?
No disclosures at this time.
Thank you. Any disclosures? Heidi? Okay.
Good morning. No disclosures.
Nice to see everyone.
Likewise.
Thank you, commissioners. As a reminder, commissioners who are participating via Zoom must be visible at all times on camera. Please log off Zoom if you need to leave the meeting and log in when you are ready to join the meeting. If you experience broadband or internet connectivity problems while participating in the meeting, that would be remedied by joining without video. You must announce the reason for your non-appearance when you turn off your camera. We will now take roll call. Recording secretary, will you please call the roll?
Jeanette Brown. Here. Catherine Williams Brown. Here. Jose Cardenas.
Present.
Earl Cotton.
Present.
Arthur.
Here.
Christopher Davis. Martha Torres.
Present.
Anna Marie Francois. Patricia Shire.
Present.
Conrad.
Present.
Susan Maria. Bonnie Pratt. Present. Ira Litt. Monica Martinez. Irene Powry.
Present.
Vic Simmons.
Here.
Vaughn Udolph.
Present. I can't really hear you. Sorry.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we start our regular business, there's a couple of announcements. First, I'm sad to announce that Kimberly White-Smith has stepped down from the commission. Dr. White-Smith was appointed to the commission to serve as an ex officio member representing the Association of Independent California Colleges and Universities in 2021. Throughout her years of service on the commission, Dr. White has consistently demonstrated her passion and commitment to California's children, as well as their educators. Her experience and knowledge make her a valued colleague on the commission, and she will be missed by all of us who had the opportunity to work with her. Kimberly, if you happen to be listening, we're going to miss you in particular. I'm going to miss you in particular, and we very much thank you for your service and wish you well. Next, I'd like to welcome our new student liaison, Amber Olmos, who is a queer Chicana warrior, educator, and community leader. She is the proud daughter of 2 Mexican immigrant parents and sister to 5 siblings. These are the identities that she holds closest to her heart and are the root of her passions. Born and raised in Inglewood and Lenox in Southern California, she is a product of community nourishment and investment. She credits her success to the intergenerational support systems that she has inherited throughout her journey. In 2019, she earned her Bachelor of Arts in Chicanx Studies at UCLA. She is currently pursuing her Master of Science in School Counseling with Pupil Personnel Service Credential and Child Welfare Attendance Authorization and College Counseling Certificate at CSU Dominguez Hills. As an educator and counselor, she comprehends learning as a reciprocal and lifelong encounter where everyone is simultaneously a student and a teacher. Therefore, she challenges her educational partners to reach their optimal potential, practicing compassion and centering their cultural knowledge. In addition to her extensive academic, research, and professional background, she is a dedicated and passionate community organizer as a co-founder of the Inspiring, Nurturing, Guiding Fellowship. This is a grassroots organization that empowers young leaders to address and mobilize against intersectional issues affecting the Inglewood community. Overall, She intends to continue paying her experience forward by planting seeds of liberation for future generations, just as others have done for her. Welcome to the Commission, Student Liaison Almost.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Get my notes here. My turn. Good morning again. And a belated happy Hispanic Heritage Month, which we celebrated from September 15th through October 15th. As you well know, this annual observance is an opportunity to celebrate the accomplishments, histories, traditions, diversity, and culture of Hispanic and Latino Americans. And happy National Principals Month, which is a celebration of our school leaders. I know we spent a lot of time around this table talking about teachers, but our school leaders, which includes principals, counselors, and district administrators, are critical to the success and well-being for our students. And so I thank you for all that you do. Well, colleagues, we are less than 3 weeks away from the election. The culture wars continue, reflecting our current political climate. Activity occurs at both the micro and macro levels. Just recently, I was at a dinner with some acquaintances, and a remark was made regarding how teachers continue to teach CRT, elementary school teachers. I offered another perspective, but to no avail to my dinner partners. And then at the macro level, you may have heard about the legal action that was taken against LUSD by an out-of-state advocacy group. This group filed a federal civil rights complaint alleging racial preferences in a program, Black Student Achievement, which is focused on supporting Black students. To this dismay of many of the educators involved in the program, the district has agreed to overhaul the academic program by eliminating race as a factor in determining which students will be included in the program. Such action reflects a broader playbook which has fueled cultural wars, division across our nation through school board elections and litigation. These kinds of actions are frustrating and disheartening, but serve as a reminder that we must continue in our efforts to address historical and systemic inequalities if students of color are to succeed and thrive. I thought about this legal action against LUSD while reviewing agenda item 4A, the Title II report, which we're going to hear soon. As you know, this is the 24th annual report and 158 institutions are represented. The report, while required by the Higher Education Act, relates to one of the 3 statutory mandates of the Commission and reflects Goal 3 of our strategic plan related to continuous improvement. As always, I appreciate the thoughtfulness and detail that goes into such a report, and I thank staff. Well, there are some encouraging trends that we will hear about. The persistent low percentage of African-American candidates is discouraging and requires our continued collective efforts to change this trajectory. I know there are numerous exemplary programs in all of our higher education segments, which focus on the recruitment, support, and retention of candidates of color to become and remain educators, but we absolutely must double down on these efforts moving forward. Thank you. Executive Director Sandy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. Great to see you here. We are smaller in the room, and it's a strange dynamic to have so few of us at the table, but grateful for everyone who joined us online as well. Hello, colleagues and partners in the field. It's great to be here with you today. It's busy here at the Commission right now. We are in deep now in the process of certifying every multiple subject, special education and PK3 credential program under SB 488. That certification process is a rather extraordinary accreditation activity that involves a deep dive into specific requirements of that law in programs, and the team, Cheryl Hickey and Aaron Sullivan, and the PSD group are deep in it, and it's going to be a very interesting dialogue with our community over the course of the year. Also, the Senate Bill 1263 work group, the work group to review the design and implementation of teaching performance assessments. Thank you, RDI, TPA, that's what that is. They've had 2 meetings since our last meeting. Our last meeting in here, we appointed the group, and they've met twice. They have elected chairs. Mandy Redfern and Ursula Estrada Reveles are the co-chairs of that group. And we've had some very rich discussions. I am not going to say another word about that because our liaison to that group from the commission, I think, will say something during her remarks. But a very exciting time from my perspective to look over kind of the arc of this work that was written into statute in 1997, and that we've been deeply, it's been a deep part of our work here at the commission for a very, very long time. And it is always good in my perspective to stop and take stock and see where we are in relation to the goals and where it is working and where it can definitely stand some improvement. So it's a very exciting time to have that work up and rolling. Those are just 2 of the big highlights. We've got a lot of different work that's underway at the commission. The staff is deeply engaged as we enter fall, and it's an exciting time. So the last thing I wanted to say is that we will have elections for chair and vice chair at the next meeting, December, the last meeting of the year, and just putting you on awareness about that. And that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Executive Director Sandy. Let's see, Commissioner Davis has joined us online. Commissioner Davis, do you have any disclosures?
No, I do not.
All right. Do any commissioners have items to report? Yes, Commissioner Brown.
I know we have a full agenda today, but I just wanted to welcome everyone and also just make a quick few comments about what's going on at the community college level or how we're interfacing with public education here at the commission. First of all, a lot of our colleagues are really excited about the P3 credential, not only for bringing a preschool level children and teachers into the workforce into public school, but also working with particularly with their CSU partners. And that's a big deal. That's a lot of work and very good work. The second thing, and I'm trying to read my own handwriting here, is the work around upgrading and how am I going to say this? Looking over the arc of the work, taking stock and moving forward on the child development teaching permit. And we have a great item on that today. The third thing is that the early childhood apprenticeship program that are beginning to build across the state really offer a lot of promise for both early childhood and the K-12 community. And really excited about that. And just parenthetically, our college, we're in the third of a 3-year grant that was to renew. But I have my first ECAP student who is a student teacher, and he's doing great. And it's just been, I think it has a lot of promise. And then finally, on the early childhood side, we're doing some really interest. There's the State Organization Association for the Education of Young Children just put on a mini conference on TK, and their state conference is coming up this spring. And also the ICECE, which is the California Community College ECE faculty organization, joined with Peach to do a 2-session work on with the Center for the Study of Childcare Workforce on uprooting systemic racism in the ECE workforce. It was really informative. And my students immediately wanted to get in and talk about it, which was great. So there's some good connections there. That's enough for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Any other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Cotton.
Gwen.
Good morning.
So on behalf of our State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman, we welcome this meeting today. I do want to highlight a few things. On September 24th, we held our inaugural convening to move the needle. And so it's a focus on our schools that have received, there's 257 schools that have received a learning literacy coach reading specialist grant program, $250 million program that provided resources, and they're getting some excellent support through Napa County Office of Ed and Sacramento County Office of Ed, along with their regional hub leaders. We're taking that cohort and looking at how do we support them around both literacy and math, and using their resources in innovative ways, really bringing funds to move students forward. And so we're doing a deeper dive into looking at their data and their claim scores, really understanding where students are and how we can best support them. Really excited about that. Wanted to share that work. I know there may be some LCRS schools out there that are listening, and just know if you have not joined the cohort, but we're really excited about that. We also convened educator housing working group for California. That started on September 30th. The work group came together, but we are looking at ways to support and develop 2.3 million housing needs for school districts across the state. We know that that is a barrier. Housing is a barrier for teachers who are entering the profession or have been in the profession. Homeowners for business with a barrier, or there are barriers to ownership. We want to make sure that we are removing as many barriers as we can as we recruit and retain California's teachers. In addition to that, through National Board, I always have to do my monthly update. The California National Board application opened on September 3rd. As of Thursday, October 10th, we have 895 subsidy applications for the 24-25 National Board certification cycle. 46% of those applications are new applications waiting to start National Board certification this year. So Michael, a very pleased nod. I'm glad it's not at Christopher over there. Yes. Okay. Thank you. The subsidy early bird application closes on October 1st, 4 p.m. So now is the time. The window is open. The regular application window closes November 7th. Is November 7th through January 10th. So if you want to know if you're getting into it as soon as possible, drop your application before October 1st. Subsidy program will cover $2,500 for the cost of certification for teachers working in high priority schools. I do also want to announce that CDE did receive the 2024 Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant. That is an additional $38 million that will be going to support literacy instruction across the state. We've just sunsetted the previous grant, but we were happy to be a part of this new federal grant program. Looking forward to some outstanding work with our partners, supporting students birth through grade 12. Very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Pavri?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Before I jump in, I just wanted to say it's a little hard for us on Zoom. You're coming, keep cutting in and out. So maybe if folks could speak a little bit louder, that would be helpful. Thank you. Good morning, and firstly, a very warm welcome to our student commissioner, Amber Olmos. So nice to have you on the commission, and we look forward to hearing your voice and your input on our deliberations. I just wanted to make a really brief, share a point of pride, if you will, on behalf of the CSU. So as you know, one of our key missions and priorities is to continue to diversify the educator workforce. And 3 of our CSU campuses have just been named recipients of the U.S. Department of Education Hawkins Center of Excellence program. Exactly, it's an extremely prestigious award. CSU San Bernardino, Sonoma State, and CSU Fullerton are 3 of the 5 Hawkins grants that came to California this year. So they continue to do excellent work and join Cal State Dominguez Hills, who is already a recipient of this award. So just wanted to share that with you all. Thank you.
Great news and congratulations to our CSU colleagues. Any other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Cardenas.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning to our partners who are here in person and also online. Good morning to our CTC staff and also our fellow commissioners. Just want to report a little bit out as far as a couple conferences that I got to attend. One of the big ones that I attended was NACAC. I know I mentioned it before. I didn't realize NACAC has been around for 80 years. It is about 28,000 members of college advisors. They've now included high school counselors. And I think there's a segment of population that they're trying to include a little bit more, which is our community college counselors. That's an element that really needs to happen because we have a lot of students that are going through the transfer route. Their theme this year was the courage within, right? Because we experience so much burnout, we experience so much hardship, and so much is going on around us. And they really talked about having this courage to continue to persevere, to continue to inspire the people around us. And one of the speakers was Magic Johnson. And you're thinking, why is Magic Johnson there? For me as a basketball person, I was excited, I was happy. I mean, he's walking around the room, he's right next to me. Just, a little starstruck as a childhood hero. But he talked about his high school counselor having an impact. He talked about his college counselor having an impact. He talked about teams of folks continue to support him throughout his entire journey as a high schooler, as a college player, and then into the business world. And that way, his passion is to continue to help others and inspire others. And his message was strong. There were people there in tears because of how much hope he had, right, for the next generation. And within this conference, we had people like Dr. Sean Harper, LeJern Terry Cornish out of Ithaca College. And we all talked about the challenges that our students face today, right? And some of these challenges have been going on for quite some time, but have been really magnified, especially in the areas of mental health. Because when we talk about college, we get them there. But then what happens to them when they're there and who's supporting them? How are we bridging them with the right people? And so this entire conference really focused on how we really can continue to support our students, but also how do we transition them to the world of work, right, and career. And then the last one that I'm going to share will be happening next week is the CAS, the California Association of School Counselors, which they're the one, right? Be the one to make a difference, be the one to make change. We can't control everything around us, especially because we have a lot of things happening to us, but we can control how we react to situations, how we react with one another. And our students are watching. Our students watch the adults and they see how we behave. And so if we're the ones who are being kind and cordial and being energetic, they're going to feed off of that. I know when I go to schools, I feed off the students, right? Their love, their generosity, their caring, because they will tell you how it is and they will never let you forget it. That's the best part about a child, right? Because they're so honest. And so we have to continue to have that. And so I say this, there's a lot of mental health struggles still going on, not just our students, also our staff and our candidates. We really not only need to pay attention to it, but we need to do something about it. We need to start having trainings for all of our teachers, training for our administrators, training for our counselors, because if we do not continue this to talk about this issue, we're all going to burn out sooner than later. And we have to be there for our kiddos. And so I continue to bring this up as far as the mental health professionals in your buildings, outside your buildings, partner with the outside agencies, partner with your people inside, like your school psychs, your school nurses, your counselors, all of your support staff, because we need to continue just to build connections with one another, build connections with our students, with our staff, and our families. And so with that said, I just want to say I'm very grateful to be here today with all of you. And thank you for all the work that you all do for the students in California.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardenas. Any other commissioners? All right, do any liaisons have items to report? Yes, Liaison Rodriguez.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Ms. Solomos, our new student liaison. It's nice to see your face here on Zoom. And Commissioner Cardenas, I really appreciated that message of hope and inspiration. Definitely well received. So my report for the state board is in September. We heard a very informative presentation on the interpretation of CASP results, including a new communications document developed by the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. These examinations are computer adaptive. They engage students' higher order thinking skills and are certainly not pass-fail, which was incredibly important to hear that and understand that. The tests, they drill down into individual student performance in each subject area, and they get more specific for ELA and math. I was particularly interested to learn that of the 4 levels, levels 2 through 4 indicate grade level performance, with level 4 indicating the level of highest accuracy and complexity. My sense is that this item would be informative for all educators and as well as preparation programs, ensuring that candidates understand the CASP and how it works, and again, that it's not a pass or fail. Coming up in November, the board will hear from the 2024 Student Advisory Board on Education. The students participate in a conference in Sacramento, which culminates in presentations to the state board. This is always an incredibly inspiring and informative presentation, and I encourage you to listen in to hear the thoughts and ideas of California high school students from across the state of California. I always look forward to it. The board will also hear the yearly update to the $4.1 billion Community Schools Partnership program. This is work I truly believe in as an educator and a board member, and I'll be sure to share more when we meet in December. And the national board information was already shared, but I do encourage all educators to pursue national board certification because it's a powerful reflective process that has definitely improved my craft as a teacher. So thank you so much. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any other liaisons? Yes, liaison round.
Thank you. I wanted to share and add on to what Executive Director Sandy already started to talk about, the amazing work of the RDI EPA work group. Just since our last meeting in August, this group has already met twice for a total of 4 days. They have done some really just amazing work already in those 4 days. I wanted to also, Mandy Redfern and Ursula Estrada Reveles were elected co-chairs. And I wanted to highlight that Mandy is an amazing 2nd grade teacher out of La Cañada Unified School District. And Ursula Estrada Reveles is an amazing educator. She's the executive director at the School of Education from Riverside County Office of Ed. Together, they've just been phenomenal at keeping this work moving in the right direction. Just in their first 2 days, they really dove into, first of all, understanding the charge of the work group. What is the purpose of us all coming together? And establishing lines of inquiry. And at that point, I really want to highlight a shout out to the staff that is supporting this work group, because the lines of inquiry came from the group and the staff has been so responsive and able to pivot on a dime to get the work group the tools that they're asking for to do the work. So thank you to all the staff and to Executive Director Sandy and to Adam Ibrahim. Thank you so much for your efforts. We see you. We came back, this group, everybody showed up again on the 2nd day for this deep work. And at that meeting, they've already been diving into establishing working definitions for 4 important concepts. And those concepts are formative in nature, valid and authentic, reasonable to implement, and appropriate for beginning teachers. And they've had just such rich conversation They've looked at performance assessment design standards. They've looked at data. They had 3 great presentations from the different performance assessment models. Those models presented the information, including those 4 key elements. And then there was so much data. That group is so incredibly thoughtful. And the vibe in the room is electric. The thing that I really appreciated about this group is that everyone brings such incredible expertise to the table. And at the same time, they are so open to hearing other people's perspectives. So it's exciting to be in the room. And I am convinced that this group has the potential to really engage in some transformational work. It's exciting. I can't wait for November. And thank you for letting me listen and learn from the group.
Thank you for that report. Your passion is contagious. I look forward to more updates from you. Thank you. Student liaison, almost, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you like to say a word or two before we move on?
I have some report backs of my own. I know it's early on, but I have started taking this position seriously, and I wanted to share a couple of things with you all. First and foremost, I wanted to say good morning, buenos dias to everybody on the committee, and thank you for my appointment to this role. I'm extremely eager to see what comes of my tenure here with you all, learning from you all, and with you all. So my goal overall is to create a structure, accessibility, and awareness for other educators and graduate students so they can learn more about the commission as well as participate in a larger capacity. Because I feel like as a graduate student, that isn't something that I was necessarily aware of until I actually applied to this role. But I would definitely want to increase engagement and hear more student voices. In order to do that, I am very big on not reinventing the wheel. So I initiated a brief onboarding with outgoing student liaison Wicks, in which we discussed his own ideas that perhaps he wasn't able to execute. And I'd like to carry on in hopes that they are successful this year. For instance, he did describe a student subcommittee to me that he wanted to initiate. But for different reasons, he wasn't able to. And I'd like to implement that this year, beginning with regional representatives, one in different areas. So for example, Northern California, Central California, Southern California, in hopes that I can hear different educator perspectives. I know as a school counselor, there are different educational partners that participate in a school setting, and I'd like to hear more in hopes that their perspectives can change what we discuss or how we discuss agenda items in this setting. In addition to that, Student Liaison Wicks also shared the manual that he created with me, and I hope to continuously update it throughout this academic year. And something that I actually discussed in my interview was perhaps an alumni network and reconnecting with folks who have had this position, because we truly are the only ones that understand what this role entails. And so I want to make sure that we are connected long term. And lastly, also wanting to publicize more public comments for graduate students and other educators within the state, especially if they are unable to attend these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, welcome to the commission. I look forward to meeting you in person soon. All right. I now recess the general session, and we will move to the Professional Practices Committee. Commissioner Harwig, will you please convene?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I now convene the Professional Practices Committee. The committee has one item today. Item 2A, the Division of Professional Practices Annual Workload Report. Rachel Kritzofi will present this item.
Hi,
good morning, Ms. Kritzofi. Ms. Kritzofi, will you please begin?
Yes, good morning, commissioners, and happy Friday. The annual report is attached here, and before I begin with the division annual report workload highlights, sorry, I'm gonna take a deep breath. I've had a strong cold and it's affecting my breathing. I would like to take a quick moment and thank our IT division, specifically Mr. Brendan Hugh, who updated the format of the annual report this year. Its presentation is wonderful, and I'm appreciative of his assistance. I know you were hoping I would read this word for word. However, I'd like to speak to the highlights of this past fiscal year instead. The highlights of the report reflect the great work my team completed this past year. I would like to congratulate them on a job well done. As you can see throughout this report, this small team is able to complete an extraordinary amount of workload. We'll start with the first chart, which is on page 4. The page numbers I'm using are the ones on the very bottom in the footer that are highlighted in white, instead of the agenda page number. This chart reflects the number of cases open the past 5 fiscal years. And the projections currently based on the numbers from July and August of the 24-25 fiscal year, the division is averaging 582 cases open per month, which reflects a potential for the division to open 6,984 cases next year. This does reflect a potential increase of 1,076 cases. The initiatives offered to support educators is working. The next chart on page 5 reflects the ongoing workload of the division. Reflect on the number of cases open this past fiscal year, which was 5,908. The average revolving caseload for the division was only 3,176 cases. This casework is non-adjudicated caseload actively processing in the division. On page 7, the chart reflects what types of misconduct were alleged. I want to point out that the increase in all categories except one, which is the last category called drugs. These specific categories that I would like to point out have a significant increase of 20% or more. These categories are child crimes, non-sexual, serious crimes and felonies, adult crimes, sexual, and other crimes, which is a non-specific category for misconduct, which doesn't directly relate to the misconduct of the other 6 categories. On page 8, you will find several charts which show the workload of the Committee of Credentials. The first 2 charts may sound familiar, as these charts are part of the division monthly workload data that I report each committee meeting. The division is grateful to the Committee of Credentials for the ongoing support and commitment to the enforcement process of the commission. The following 4 charts on page 9 and the beginning of page 10 reflect the workload of the division, where the commission has adopted policies that delegate authority to staff to close cases which meet very specific criteria. In fiscal year 23-24, the division processed a total of 2,278 cases in these categories. Single alcohol offense was 1,292. No jurisdiction for formal review, which is 810. Specified vehicle code violations, which was 57, and expired credentials, which was 119. Remaining on page 10, the following 3 categories reflect the adverse action workload of the division. Beginning with chart 2, mandatory actions totaled 118 cases. Discretionary actions totaled 734 cases. for a total adverse action count of 852 actions for the fiscal year of 23-24. Beginning on page 11, this chart reflects workload completed in conjunction with the Office of the Attorney General. The monthly number of cases pending administrative hearing averaged 171 for the fiscal year. The final chart on page 11 reflects the completed workload by the Office of the Attorney General, which totaled 154 cases adjudicated in 23 and 24. Page 12 reflects the workload in which the Deputy Attorney General may request additional investigation on disciplinary cases. The division's investigations unit works cooperatively with the department. The division's investigative units works cooperatively with the Deputy Attorney Generals to obtain additional information which supports the OAG's workload. The fiscal year ended with only 5 requests ongoing or in process. Final chart on page 12 reflects the number of educators requesting reinstatements after their license has been previously revoked. As commissioners, you hear these cases in closed session. The commission granted 9, denied 14 petitions for reinstatement this past fiscal year. Drum roll, please, because we're almost over. Our last chart on page 13 reflects the timeliness of the action on cases from opening a case, commission review, and adoption of adverse action. The timeline has been consistent the past 3 years. The timeliness for 23-24 fiscal year was 360 days on average. The division strives to move cases through the review process as quickly as possible. But as you can see in the chart, there are many milestones that the case must move through. In many instances, the timeline, such as document procurement, are out of the control of the division staff, as this requires records from law enforcement, court jurisdictions, and other licensing agencies. I am pleased to present that while the overall timeliness increased by 19 days from fiscal year 22-23, I am confident that the 20-day average for the division to open a case is the basis for the difference, and that I expect this category to decrease for fiscal year 24-25. I am pleased to report that the division continues to fulfill its statutory responsibilities of protecting the safety of school children and the due process rights of California educators. I am happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pritzafi. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to provide a comment, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Please unmute your comment. Ed? Oh, hear us? We cannot hear you.
We are unable to hear the speaker. Is someone trying to make a public comment? Unmuted.
Hello.
So we can hear you, Alman.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, now we are able to hear you. Could you please provide your name again?
Yes, Michelle Taylor.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Please provide your comment.
I just want to say thank you to the Division of Professional Practices. I appreciate the report this morning, and I also appreciate the work that you do. I have been a credentialed teacher since 2004 and a credentialed teacher in good standing. In reading through the background, reading through the background of the division, it says that disciplinary action may be taken based on the applicant or holder's immoral or unprofessional conduct. And it also states that this can apply to any act of moral turpitude. Well, I looked up the definition of turpitude, and moral turpitude can also refer to an act that is unethical, unjust, or violates social standards. Specifically, in my case, I have submitted a total of 4 affidavits to the division for educator misconduct with the schools that I work with. That's 5 key schools and programs, as well as San Francisco Unified School District. Those cases were closed, and simply, I just have questions about whether or not the division considers Title IX violations as misconduct. I see that there is a list of misconduct, and it appears that with the exception of drug and alcohol, there are crimes, but Title IX is not on there. So maybe that should be considered.
Ms. Taylor, thank you. Your 2 minutes is up. We appreciate your comment. And I'm now going to ask Ms. Gritzofi if she has a response to the particular question about Title IX violations. No, we will not take response to that question.
Not an agenda item.
Oh, it's not an appropriate question within whether that's one of the categories of misconduct that is listed in this report?
So what I would say is that thank you for your comments, Ms. Taylor, I believe is your name. We are not able to talk about any particular cases at this table, but in terms of the broad question, is there any light that you can shed, Ms. Gritzofi?
I'm not overly familiar with Title IX. So without more specific data, Ms. Taylor can absolutely reach out to me if she has additional questions regarding her specific affidavits that she submitted. I think that would be most proper in this instance.
So thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Ms. Taylor, and for your appreciation of the work done by the DPP. Are there any other public comments at this time? There are no additional public comments. Okay. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Yeah, I do not see any. Oh,
I just want to say it's an excellent report. And I don't know if you've changed the format, but it just seems especially readable.
Thank you. Thank you. That was our IT folks. They helped represent the data in a more updated version. And so, yes, it flows much better.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? I do not see anybody remotely, so I will take the prerogative then to make my comments and observations. First, I just want to elevate the importance of this report within our annual presentation of items to the public. As I know, I comment with each monthly report. This is one of the 3 pillars of work that the commission does, and it is the pillar of work that is not accessible to the public in detail for due process and confidentiality reasons, both for students and for credential holders, but is public when we get reports on how the workload is progressing. And so I think it is very important we're taking this time to see how the flow of work is going over the course of the year. So I greatly appreciate that this is annually presented to us. Second, I'm going to repeat what Commissioner Simmons said and what you said in your introduction, which is just a great thank you for rethinking the format of the report and how it is presented. I also found it extremely readable, and my appreciation to Brandon Hugh, as well as, of course, to you and your team for putting together all the excellent data in the report. I have just a couple of specific questions to ask about and to speak about. One is about the increase in one particular type of conduct that I think has I wanted to illuminate because may have broader interest beyond just disciplinary cases, and that is the increase that we are seeing in breach of contract cases. So when you look at the chart of number of cases opened on page 6 in white, we can see that breach of contract cases increased from 26 in 2019 to 20 to 138 2022 to 2023 and 134 in 2023 to 2024. Now, some of that increase is, of course, because we have an overall increase in cases, but I do not think that tracks in terms of the percentage increase. And so that was something that I wanted to just highlight for broader thought about why we are having an increase in breach of contract cases, and also ask if you have any comments about that increase and why that might be happening. That's not your job to say why these are happening, but whether you have anything else to tell us about this increase that we're seeing.
I don't have any background. As you know, we don't have any content as to why schools report breach of contract or why educators are deciding to leave the field or leave that particular location. We do see that it is increasing, and whether or not it's due to pure population availability, where people have choices now. People have come back from COVID relief. Schools have reopened. There's more opportunity. But we don't have any, the committee actually decides whether the breach of contract is valid and produces the response for the recommendation for the breach of contract. So we present the records as they're received from both the educator and the school, and the committee takes the review of the case for the recommendation.
Thank you. On page 7, I just wanted to note an additional appreciation for the percent change that was included in this chart. I'm not sure if that has been included in past years, and that is something that I definitely appreciate when I'm evaluating. That's very helpful. So that was just a comment that was helpful for me to be able to see those changes. Moving on to the timeliness. So I'm going to skip back to the end, the timeliness. And let me also give thanks for this is a very detailed report with a lot of interesting and important information. And I appreciate also how you have presented it to go through to the highlights. So as you mentioned, we have had an increase in overall processing time up to 368. 2 days on average, only more than 21 to 22, but 19 days in average from 2 years ago. And I just wanted to look through this because I had 1 or 2 questions and comments about it. When I do the math, it looks like there's an increase in 16 days tagged on there from the cases opened. You note that is part of the increase. But there's also a decrease actually from when we see document procurement. There's a total overall of increase in 18 days, which of course we never want to increase the days, but I would be happy to hear you say that next year you think it might be good to reduce. So I have a question and a comment. I'm going to give the comment first, which is I was pleased to see the decrease in the number of days for the issuance of letter of inquiry. going from 21-22 from 178 down to 152, down to 134, even though we have an increase in the overall number. Because if I'm reading this right, that's a period in which a lot of work is being done by your team before you're even able to issue that letter of inquiry. Is that, can you explain to us, is that correct? It's after you get the records, but you have to review them before you actually send out the letter of inquiry?
Correct. That is in between the time where the records, the document procurement is the time that it takes us to actually analyze the records and then request anything that is missing, anything additional, contact law enforcement or agencies. And then between that time and the issuance is the time that we get the records and do the analyzation before we issue the letter of inquiry. So it's twofold. We're waiting for the documents to come in and then we do the review process and prepare it for committee at issuance of letter of inquiry.
Well, then my commendation to your team for that, because that's a significant chunk of work that has to be done in that time. And the fact that the timeline is decreasing during that period is heartening. But maybe you can just speak for a moment to why there has been an increase in time for the cases opened. And that's, I'm just going to tag that to my other question, and one I ask every time, which is about staffing levels and whether you feel that your levels of staffing are adequate for the work that you have. And perhaps because it's not included in this report, you can remind us about how many people do work for the division. I know it is a lean team, but if you could remind the public how many people work for the team. So those questions for me are all tied together.
Okay. I'll start with the cases opened. So at the beginning of the fiscal year, through the end of the calendar year, so between August and December, we usually see a slowdown for DPP. So certification picks up in applications, and then those trickle into DPP, and then the DPP team processes. And so our slow time is usually that time of year. This year wasn't the case. We haven't had a slowdown yet. So the number of applications and the number of items coming through the door remained very consistent. We didn't have a slowdown. So it took us longer to move through that. Plus we had some long, well, I don't want to say long, but we had some lengthy leave of absences for some critical staff. And so while training newer staff to do some of those processes, it slowed us down a little bit. So I expect those staff are still here. They're still processing. They're learning better each day. And so I expect the processes to pick up, which is why I don't expect the 20-day for next year, which will allow those numbers to slowly drop for the timeliness of the cases. As for staffing, we are staffed complete. We do have some folks that are set to retire next year. We have some folks that are transitioning out for promotional opportunities. And so as we are able to replace them, we're keeping fully staffed. And we're cross-training across all units within the division to ensure that we have nice coverage regardless of the workload. And if workload seems to peak, we have cross-training in place that allows us to move staff around so that they can assist when they need. So right now we seem fully staffed. We appear to be moving in a really great direction in cross-training. And I think our totals now are about 40 to 42 staff. And that's from director down. So from line staff, from OT to director, we have about 42 staff.
Okay, thank you. That really helps me understand and be reassured about your staffing levels. And I appreciate the thoughtfulness that you and your other partners in the organization are using to cross-train and make sure that we're using staff as fully as possible. Well, that concludes my questions. So now on to the thank yous. 3 particular thank yous I want to make. Number 1 is to you and your team who worked so hard throughout the entire year and are working on behalf of protecting school children throughout the state and also protecting the rights of credential holders. So please take that back to your team. Number 2, for our committee of credentials who works incredibly hard every single month to make sure that we are moving through this important caseload. And then number 3, I wanted to also offer a thanks in case anybody is listening to the Office of the Attorney General, who is a very key partner in our being able to do any of our disciplinary work and on whom we reply. So If anybody has had any questions that have come up during my comments, any commissioners have any questions or comments that they would like to add?
I just have a quick comment. Besides the fact that this report is has always been good, but now is incredibly accessible and helpful. I think having the piece about the timeliness of action on cases really helps people understand what happens and why it happens and why it needs to take time to do the depth and breadth needed for each individual case. And while everyone would like everything to go faster, I think this expresses how it goes better and how it goes correctly. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Brown. All right, well, this is an information item and no action is needed. Thank you, Ms. Kritzoff-B. Thank you. This concludes the business before the Professional Practices Committee. The committee is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartley. Next is the Certification Committee. Commissioner Simmons, will you please convene the committee?
I now can, it's really hard to do without a microphone.
You're supposed.
Yeah. Okay, I now convene the Certification Committee. The committee has one item before it today. That's item 3A, Roadmap to Education Careers Initiative Update. This is an information item that provides an update on the ongoing work related to the Roadmap to Education Careers Initiative established by Assembly Bill 178. This item will be presented by Angel Lopez Barrett and Vanessa Ragudo. Mr. Lopez, please begin.
Good. Hello and good morning, Commissioners. I serve as the manager over the Education Career Counselors within the Certification Division. With me today are two of those counselors, Barrett Jenkins and Vanessa Ragudo. And we thank you for the opportunity to share with you all the progress of the Roadmap to Education Careers Initiative. When we first presented about this initiative in August of 2023, the Certification Division identified 4 primary goals to support the efforts of the Education Careers Initiative. Goal 1 is to provide direct education career counseling and support. Goal 2 is to improve our credential information web resources. Goal 3 is to improve messaging and outreach to promote the profession. And goal 4 is to further upgrade the Commission's web-based systems. I am very happy to report that we have made significant progress on all 4 of those goals. The Roadmap Initiative has allowed our staff the unique opportunity to spend more time to each individual who requests assistance and to use those interactions to gather data which will further shape the team's ongoing efforts. I'd now like to turn things over to Barrett to speak to you about those efforts and some of the insights that we found while engaging in this work. Barrett?
Thank you, Angel. Good morning, Commissioners. I'd like to share with you progress that's been made on 2 of those primary goals that Angel mentioned. Specifically, goal 1 of establishing the education career counselors, and goal 3, which is promoting the teaching profession in California, improving messaging. So the career counselors, we'll start with goal 1. Career counselors have been made available for any member of the public, whether they be current teacher or a prospective teacher, or one-on-one support. That's something that was never done before at this level, before the initiative was, began last August. And on the Roadmap to Teaching landing page, there's a Contact Us button that people can click, and that's how they request one-on-one support. So there's an inquiry form that they must complete when they click there, and we gather certain information such as their previous experience, their actual teaching goals, and geographic location, date of birth, and more, importantly, what they actually need help with. So all of that data has been used, to give us some interesting insights, which I'll share in a moment. When we complete that form, this is the most unique part, they also have a choice to get the support via email reply, an actual scheduled phone appointment, or a video chat appointment. They love that, by the way. Since this launched last August, the first year, so from August 2023 to 2024, we've responded to 2,460 requests for a career counselor. After their initial appointment, they have an option to stay in touch with that career counselor over time. Because an email is sent, so they can always reply to that email thread. And in my personal experience as a career counselor, they are extremely thrilled about that. It's an enormous sense of relief that they could always reach back out to somebody and not have to start over their whole story each time. They feel supported in a way that was never possible before. So that's what I personally hear back all the time. So other than the appointments, we also participate in certain events over the past year, including in-person and virtual career and job fairs that have been hosted by a variety of institutions, but mostly County Office of Education and district career fairs. So yeah, like most of the time we're there in a virtual booth, or if it's in Sacramento, we've been local in person, where we're helping teacher candidates understand program prerequisites, or maybe their options going, if I become a teacher, what are my options in the future after that? So we talk about maybe getting involved in administration, for example, things that, they can't completely understand from the website, and they really appreciate having one of us on site. So the response has been overwhelmingly positive from both the attendees of these events, but also the hosts really appreciate us there too. There's been other events that we've participated in, hosted by the California Department of Education, the CSU Teacher Recruitment Committee, and the Association of California Administrators. And we look forward to even more of those as time goes on. We've been able to participate in 2 television interviews with Good Day Sacramento, and the other one was Fox 40 Local News. The interviews were used to promote the Roadmap to Teaching program by showcasing the new interactive web pages that we have up now, but also to promote the one-on-one career counseling option. The actual interviews and the events have been used to accomplish goal 3. We believe it has been, which again was to improve messaging for the teaching profession. For example, since it launched last August, the Roadmap to Teaching landing page has received over 84,000 site visits. That was an exciting number for us to see. So you could see on figure 9, which is on page 10, the exponential increase in inquiries that our program has received over time. Naturally, last August of 2023 was the lowest. It was a brand new program. The word hadn't quite gotten out yet. And you'll see the most recent August of 2024, it spiked. There's a huge increase, and we've been pretty busy. So we're really excited about that. And we really believe it's due to ongoing efforts of LEAs and our partners in the field sharing this information locally across California to increase hits on that page, but also the television interviews and word of mouth really has made a huge impact. So we expect that to increase over time. It also goes well beyond California. Something interesting that we saw is that we've received inquiries from over 40 states and 6 continents. So also a lot of people moving to California or to the United States who are already teachers, and they find this section of the website really helpful. So now to go into some more of the data. This is all based on the inquiry forms that I mentioned before, which we've tracked. We've gathered the information with the goal of identifying what areas of support we can improve on, but also how to improve our web resources as well. Like I mentioned, we gathered their location, their date of birth, the issues they may be facing, but also their teaching goals. So on figure 1 on page 3, shows us that the majority of people who contact the career counselors have no teacher preparation completed, which was to be expected. These are people who are interested in becoming a teacher. They want to know more. They seem to have a passion for teaching, but don't really know where to begin. I've talked to many people in the segment, and most of them are what we'll call career changers who have no previous experience in education, but they already have established careers who are now interested in pivoting. And they're most concerned about the standard of living, career change transition time, and the cost of a preparation program. Figure 2, just below this on the same page, some interesting data that we got based on the date of birth inquiries. Millennials, ages 28 to 43, make up almost 50% of the inquiries. With Generation X, ages 44 to 59, making up more than 30% of inquiries. This means that we're typically assisting people who are over the age of 30 years old. And though the counselor inquiries comprise a limited sample size, this does indicate that there's a large pool of potential teachers that we can recognize as these career changers that I mentioned before. This is really interesting to us because we weren't quite expecting to see that. We were expecting more, the trend to be more people who have more recently earned their bachelor's degree and who had not already had an established career. So we found that extremely useful data because considering this demographic in future teacher recruitment policies could make a huge impact on the teacher workforce. So found that very helpful. And lastly, this is another interesting thing that we discovered is that the baby boom generation, ages 60 to 78, they typically are contacting us because they're seeking a way to give back to their communities. It seems to be a common phrase after they retire from their primary career. The data also allows us to examine what some might perceive as obstacles to joining the teaching profession. We'll call these perceived obstacles. And each career counselor tracks which perceived obstacles, if any, that the inquirer is experiencing. Figure 4, found on page 5, shows the number of perceived obstacles that were reported. A little over half reported no obstacle, simply because they're just getting into it, right? They haven't really hit the roadblock yet, except they just want more information. However, the remaining 45% reported at least one obstacle, and that obstacle, the most perceived obstacle, is the cost of teacher preparation programs at 35%. In reaction to this trend, we've already taken action, and we've worked with, we've collaborated with West Ed to create some very useful financial assistance and resource pages on the Roadmap to Teaching pages. And my colleague here, Vanessa, is going to do a live demo of some of those resource pages that now exist on the Roadmap to Teaching site. Vanessa?
Thank you, Barrett. Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
In collaboration with our colleagues at West Ed, we've been continuously enhancing our existing pages and adding robust resources. We have worked with our IT team to make sure that when an individual arrives to the Commission's website, Roadmap to Teaching is highlighted and is easily accessible. When an individual gets to the Roadmap to Teaching website, they are greeted with a roadmap infographic on the homepage. Many reach out to us and have no idea where to start in the process of becoming a teacher. This graphic is an attempt to give a high-level overview of that process, and having this graphic displayed prominently gives them an idea of where to start and how they will meet their goal of earning a credential. Once an individual determines which type of credential they want to obtain, they will identify which preparation pathway is best suited for them. Let's take a look at the Pathways to Credentialing page. On this page, the Preparation Pathway Comparison Chart tool was added. This tool was designed as a starting point when researching pathways. In many of my interactions with prospective educators, they ask, how do I find a program that's right for me? I'm able to go over this chart with them, showing the 4 different pathways side by side. Under reasons to choose, they could see why they might want to choose that pathway type. Are they wanting to earn a salary while completing their program? They can see that's available through the residency or the intern pathway. If they've not earned a bachelor's degree, can they complete a program and earn their degree at the same time? And they can see here that it's offered through the integrated undergraduate pathway. And in my experience, I get a fair amount asking, what is the quickest way to get my credential? Here they can see under the completion time, there's different preparation links for each pathway. Using this chart is intended to identify what aspects of a program is important based on their personal situation. As Barrett mentioned, one of the perceived obstacles is cost. And what I've experienced is that when a prospective educator expresses their concerns about tuition or how they will pay for their expenses, while they're completing the program, is that there's a breadth of financial assistance available to them. In response to this, the Collaborative State Agency Work Group and WestEd created tools intended to guide users through financial planning and planning. These tools can help the candidate identify what the true cost of completing a program is and consider that there are numerous factors that can impact that cost. Let's take a look at the financial resources page. Funding Your Future in Teaching is a PDF guide that focuses on steps for potential teachers entering any preparation pathway. It provides a snapshot of key state and federal financial aid and displays some sample funding packages. Part 1 of the guide provides a step-by-step plan they can consider when exploring financial options, starting from the beginning of choosing the type of preparation pathway, identifying the cost of attendance, discover federal, state, and financial resources, and evaluating a program's long-term benefit costs. Part 2 focuses on sample funding packages backed by research from WestEd for those interested in the residency program pathway. This section highlights residency model and more details on the benefits and outcomes. The other tool on the financial resources page is a Teacher Candidate Funding Explorer. This is an online database of federal and state funds and organized by the type of funding award amount, availability to an undergraduate or graduate, and a brief description of the funding initiative. Individuals can search the database for financial grants and scholarships they may be eligible for based on their personal circumstance. When I show this candidates this database, they can see what grants are available to them, and maybe there's some grants they've never heard of. If they mention that they're looking into completing a program with a UC or a UCSU, I can show them that there's a state university program grant available, and there's a UC Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan. If a candidate has dependents at home and they're concerned about what the financial impact on them can be, I can show them that there's this grant here, Students with Dependent Children Grant, and one that can also cover food costs, such as the CalFresh grant. In response to candidates' goals and perceived obstacles that were presented, these updates and tools are available so they can reach their goals of becoming a teacher. We would also like to thank our partners at WestEd in lending a hand so these candidates can seamlessly navigate the beginning of their educator journey. I will hand it back to Angel on the continued progress of this initiative.
Vanessa? During the August 2023 update on the initiative, information was provided on a replacement system to our external website and our internal database. This system, known as the Educator Credentialing System, or ECS for short, is still in development. And while ECS will be a drastic upgrade to our systems and to processing of applications, we determined that we cannot wait for that system to be ready and must make efforts to upgrade our current system for the benefit of current and potential educators. To that end, and with the help of our excellent IT staff, our CTC online system was upgraded just this past Monday to allow for the direct submission of applications for the emergency 30-day substitute teaching permit. And this also allows individuals to upload the supporting documentation right through our website. This is going to streamline the processing of these substitute applications, and it's going to reduce our reliance on paper materials. And it's also going to eliminate payment issues, which often can cause significant delays in processing. Since the upgrade went into effect this past Monday, we have received over 350 direct submission applications for this permit type. We consider this a very successful first step in removing technological barriers for educators. More documents are slated to come very soon for direct submission through the CTC online system. Another area of improvement is with what we term courtesy submissions. These are applications submitted through CTC online by an employer on behalf of an educator. While we have had courtesy submissions for a few years, they have really been restricted to permits that are restricted documents to a specific employer. Our ongoing effort is to add more credential types to the online system for courtesy submission. And in the near future, that effort's going to begin with all levels of the child development permit. Looking ahead, staff is very excited to further develop our ability to capture information from individuals who engage with our education career counselors. Our ongoing efforts, future developments to our guidance documents, our website, and messaging will be shaped by the areas of greatest need as determined from those interactions. We will also continue to be advocates for the profession with an eye on improving the teacher pipeline and all the individual goals of the Roadmap to Education Careers Initiative. I thank you very much, commissioners, for the opportunity to share some of this exciting work with you today, and we would be happy to take any questions you might have.
This is just so cool. But before I say anything about how cool it is, we have to go to public comment. So if there are members of the public that would like to provide a comment, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raised hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9. Are we supposed to say *9 or *9?
Start.
If participating by phone, public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
There are. Amy Botano, please unmute your mic.
I'm so sorry. I was trying to check out the website and I hit and raise my hand, but I'm loving it. So sorry about that.
For a shout out, how about Jen? Please unmute your mic.
Hi there. My name is Jeanette Mulhern. I am faculty at Cosumnes River College, Community College, and I did have a question about how this website, I think it's beautiful and I think it's really well laid out. So thank you for all of your work on this and for the demonstration. But I did have questions on how we're defining an educator, and a teacher, because oftentimes we come to the commission, it's assuming that everyone is getting a teaching credential when we do have child development permits, and that is a viable pathway into teaching, and it's also a pathway on its own. And so I wanted to see, I thought you said something about perhaps integrating the child development permit, but I do want to make sure that when we're defining teachers or educators, we're also including those who are working with our youngest population. And that's all.
Yes, the piece that I spoke about the child development permit was about direct submission of the applications for the child development permit as an upgrade to our online system. But we absolutely consider them educators. We absolutely speak to them about the requirements of how to begin their career in the child development world, just as we would to anyone who asks about being a multiple subject teacher or a single subject teacher. We definitely don't make any distinction there. Really, the interactions are determined by what they ask us and what their goals are. And sometimes they're not even certain, right? They can reach out to us for assistance. They set up a phone conversation with a career counselor, and through that conversation, just person to person, we may determine, like, you know what, perhaps the best route for you would be the child development permit based on your stated interests. So I can assure you that we do have those conversations, and we are very happy to promote child development permits, right along with every other document type we offer.
Kathy Young, get your microphone.
Hi, thank you. My name is Kathy Yoon. I'm a senior researcher at the Learning Policy Institute. And forgive me if you mentioned this and I missed it, but I was just wondering if you have any way to track whether the clients who have received counseling actually then pursue and get their credential.
With our current offerings, our current system, there is nothing that tracks that sort of thing automatically. Without getting too much into the details, into the weeds, I can tell you that we are working on things that along those exact lines for the ECS system that is coming. We understand that there's a great need for more longitudinal data on who enters a profession, when they enter, where they end up going with that, right? How long they last, maybe if they move from a classroom teacher eventually to an administrator. We are growing more and more in our interest and reliance on and use of data. So again, we don't have anything that specific at this moment, but we are working towards that exact goal.
Gibbons.
Let's talk. Yes. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Erin Githens. I'm a TK teacher in Orange County, and I'm representing the California Teachers Association. And I just want to thank the commission and the commission staff for this work because it's really a great format. I like that you guys are thinking about messaging to become a teacher because I know most people don't just assume that we have as much work to put in as a law and a doctor would, but we don't have that prestige, so that just allures people to action. So I just really want to thank you for basically asking people, what do you need? So I'm really excited about that. When I glanced at this before the meeting, I noticed that student teaching wasn't on here. And then I was like, oh, maybe it would go under personal finance. But I feel like student teaching could be its own category. And the reason I mention that is because for many people, because of it, it could be a barrier for a variety of reasons. One, I think, you have a 5th year of school for a full-time student. I think most people know grad programs are a big commitment, but you have to do it at the end of a full day of teaching. And I think we're all aware being teacher tired, and then you have to think at the end of the day is a lot to ask of people. So maybe how can we support aspiring educators there so that on top of that, that is a full-time gig where you are not getting paid. So, I know CTA is always trying to pursue legislation of how can we get people money? Because I think if people go through that year, which was a very exhausting year for me, and I thought that was going to be my whole life, I might be like, no, that's not. Anyway, so, and on top of that, you have to go to multiple locations. You have to go to a school site, your university. And so I just would encourage that this is a really strong start, but I leave space for more voice because I think we can hear more problems. And if you are going to support people, let's really figure out what are the specific issues because there's a lot here. So again, I'm excited by this and excited where it goes.
Ava Mark.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maeva Mark, and I'm the VP of Advocacy and Policy with Cadengo, and we are a childcare provider in the East Bay area. I'm also a former preschool teacher and K-6 special education teacher. What I wanted to say is thank you so much for working on this pathway and looking at it today, I want to shout out Jeanette, who mentioned it on the call earlier, to consider integrating early care and education as part of this pathway or this initiative, because we know that the joy of learning starts at the first 5 years of life. And we want to make sure that our childcare and preschool providers are also recognized as professionals in this field, and that it is a field that folks can come into if they want to continue their journey to work with older children. They can always start with the first five-year-old and under. I came into education through an alternative pathway, and that's something I did not see in here, is for folks who are interested in coming into education who already have a bachelor's or master's degree. What are some of the options that also could be included in this pathway for them when it comes to folks who may not enter in a traditional way? So if that could be considered for this initiative. Thank you.
Jessica Sacco.
Good morning, Jessica Sacco on behalf of Children Now. Long time no see. It's been a long time since I've been in person, and it's very exciting to be here. Sorry for the fan moment. First of all, I want to applaud the work. I remember when this item came before the commission, when the site was first launched, there was great excitement then. It's obviously grown and developed in ways that make a lot of sense and are responsive to the needs of those who are interested in becoming teachers. And I'm just really excited for the work. And to me, what this item demonstrates is that there is a clear role for the state and the commission to fill in this space. The interest in increase in reach outs to the career counselors really just makes it clear that there was a vacuum in this space. And I think that that's what the administration was trying to address when they proposed this initiative. And I'm just hopeful that they will continue to support this effort, if not double down on it, in order to increase the scope and expansion of an outreach. In addition to, I did see the Good Day Sacramento. I'm a Sacramento resident, so I did see, we watch Good Day in my house. And so I did see that. I would encourage you to reach out to other media markets. Sacramento's great, but you know, LA, San Diego, the Central Valley, they all have their good days, right? So I would just recommend outreach to more markets. When I was reading the item, there was a mention about employer access. It talked about employer access and then LEA access. I just want to make sure that we're factoring in all employers, especially when we're thinking about child development permits, which are not always employed at LEA sites. So other sites that may be outside the LEA system. And then I was also curious, as I read through, there was a couple of concerns about misinformation that folks felt like they were receiving from programs. I don't know if this is outside the field of the CTC, but if there's any tracking of trends around programs that are consistently being reported as providing bad information, is that anything that can be given in accreditation consideration or anything like that? I mean, misinformation can be perceived or real. We all receive information differently. So just thinking about trends in that area. Thank you.
Additional requests for.
The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Mr. Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner David. I really like the site. I like the roadmap. I've used it with, I'm a teacher and I work with teachers to help them get board certified. And I've used this with a lot of my family members and friends who are becoming teachers, and it's been really helpful. One thing that I didn't find on here is, in the national board certification is also one of the ways that teachers can clear the credential in lieu of induction. And I saw that induction was listed, but I couldn't find anywhere in the pathways of how somebody who already has a credential from another state, or somebody who earned their credential in California but wants to become a board certified teacher, how that would help them clear the credential without having to do induction at a significant cost savings. So I don't know if was I just not able to find it, or is it not in there?
There is a PDF guide in one of the tools. Believe so. Okay, so on tools for credentialing, there are shareable resources, and there's one that says how to clear your credential. And I believe national board's on there.
That said, I think so what you're getting here from the team is big first blush of the next big push. But this is going to be an ever evolving and we don't have to hide national board, and we're not hiding it. It's there, but it can be bumped up. So
I couldn't find it. So
Out of state, it shows up. I don't know if that's helpful.
where?
Prepared out of state.
If you look under the path for resources for teachers trained outside of California, and if you click on that, I mean, I'm not saying it can't be looked at more, but it does show up. For teachers prepared out of state as a
Out of state. But also applicable for teachers prepared within the state.
Yes, so I just want to let you know it's something.
An avenue for instead of induction. And I didn't see it in those areas as well. So I'm sure that I didn't look at that out of state one. But the other thing too is teachers who go through, I don't know if there's advantages, disadvantages that can be added for potential teachers. So for example, I know the teachers who do a 5th year at a university to clear their credential, once they start teaching, they don't realize that because they've earned those units before they earn their bachelor's degree, those units, additional units, do not count towards salary advancement. And in most districts, teachers can advance their salary by obtaining additional units. So teachers who do the traditional route and get their bachelor's degree and then go into a teacher preparation program, all those units do count towards salary advancement. So that's an advantage to doing it that way. Whereas teachers who have added a 5th year, while they come out fully credentialed, they then are at the bottom of the pay scale because none of those units can count. It's only after bachelor degree units that count towards salary advancement. So I don't know if there could be a benefits, advantages, disadvantages to each pathway.
I think Erin is going to rescue us.
Well, I just wanted to say that thank you for the feedback, and we will definitely look at ways in which we can integrate the national board pathway for clearing the credential into a more prominent role, on the pages. And I think this is the exact feedback that we're looking for, as Mary said, and as Angel said, the continuous improvement process. So as we identify areas that we can, add additional nuggets of information or kind of rephrase things, that's exactly what we want to hear from you all. So yeah, that's a really important piece of the decision-making process that educators need to understand. And so that's definitely something that we can look at adding at that comparison table that Vanessa was sharing, the benefits and the different, aspects to consider as an individual is looking to identify the best pathway for them. So thank you for that.
Commissioner Fong?
Hi there. I just wanted to say I came in February of this year, and this was talked about it's coming. So when it came out in August, I went online and just clicked around, and this is amazing. So thank you for doing the work. In my new role, I'm actually working with my career and counselor at the high school, and we do a career fair, and I work with high school students who are interested in education. So this is really good because I actually can sit down with my high schoolers and show them, like, if you're interested in teaching, let's go ahead and look at this roadmap and connect you with a counselor. So thank you for your work, and I look forward to just giving feedback as I work with my high schoolers. Thank you.
Jose?
I thought for sure Dr. Yusuf was going to talk about incorporating AI. So I thought incorporating AI, but this is awesome. This is fantastic. I think for myself, also using it with students and for people that want to go into education. The one thing that I haven't asked for is there any data that we're looking at really to target regions, like to be intentional about regions that need more credentialed folks, either in teaching or counseling? or any other support service credential or even administration, to really target those regions that need extra support and outreach. So those specific county office of eds, and just like the Central Valley, for example, we can use that kind of data to address that.
Yeah, the team is always available for any county office or district that wants to reach out and seek that additional support to come speak at career fairs or provide, recruitment information that we have available. There's also an opportunities board that the team has put together where they can highlight any opportunities, whether it be continuing education or recruitment opportunities from LEAs. And those are prominent on the web pages as well. At this point, we haven't had the ability to target regions that are experiencing shortages and connecting that, shortage data with the program. But that's definitely something that, as the program matures, we can look into the possibility of being able to do. But I would encourage any district or county that's experiencing shortage to just reach out to the team through the website and, engage with them as far as what they might be able to do to provide some additional services.
Well, thank you. As the liaison commissioner for the community college district, it's great to see what you're doing. And as one was saying about high school, I just want to say that a lot of our teachers are going to be coming from the community college system. So I haven't studied this like some have, but I would like to make sure that the community college system, as part of the teacher preparation system, be included as an affordable, accessible, regional, local piece. And if there's anything I can do to support that, that would be good. Also, thank you for starting to think about and including working with children under 5 in terms of looking at the child development permit, which still needs to get worked on.
Okay. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you so much for this item. This is awesome. I want to really applaud the outreach that's been done. The TV interviews, going to events, getting out there in any way that we can. I also really like what you shared about streamlining processes, because I know from my own anecdotal research that sometimes when the process is complicated, people just opt out. No, too hard. My wishes for the future include, when I look at the inquiry by generation, I think that's awesome. People are inquiring. You're collecting great data. I also know, having, because I live with 2 Gen Zers, I know the way that they acquire information, the way they process information, just the way that they go about life is very different by generation. And I am often not on the cutting edge of their, where they go to get their information. So as we look at this generational data, I also would like to be mindful of not only the numbers that are showing up, but the numbers that aren't showing up. And have we really tapped into the way that they capture information? So there may be some additional ways that we can reach out to them in ways that they prefer. How about that? But thank you. This is great work, going in the right direction. And I can't wait to see the next update, what you guys do.
Commissioner Brown just asked us for a TikTok page.
So something that you got here, and the fewer clicks, the better too, I'm told by them.
And that's reading too.
Yes, more graphics.
Commissioner Ember.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for such a great demonstration. It's something new that I learned today. It was very insightful, and I plan to share with my students as well. Just some areas of growth that I noticed as a school counselor is as I was looking through the website, I was able to find school counseling or counseling services under the Finding Your Career button. So thank you for including that. My only feedback is potentially using more inclusive language instead of teaching. Either using more inclusive language when describing this particular section because it can be potentially misleading. When I originally clicked on it, I assumed that it would only be teaching different types of teaching jobs or careers. And I was happily surprised to find counseling services, administrator positions, school psychologists, and so on. So I think either using more inclusive language or having a separate section to explain that there are different ways to pursue education outside of just teaching. I think that would be a great addition because I know as a school counselor who was teeter-tottering between teaching or school counseling, I didn't really understand either pathway. So I think it would be great to have that separation or using more inclusive language. Thank you.
For that feedback. We do have something called that we call the Career Wizard available on the website. And it's an interactive tool that allows someone to explore all of the different opportunities to work in the public school system. So that includes administrators, school counselors, school nurses, everything under the sun. And so individuals can click through and kind of see what the different requirements are and what those different services offer as careers. So thank you for that. We can add that designation and kind of make it a little bit more inclusive as well. Thank you.
Mr. Glenn.
TurboTax for becoming an educator. Like the challenge around becoming a teacher is that it's not an intuitive process. It's not something that you on your own can do. It requires your transcripts to be read. It requires a much deeper dive. And then there's so many different programs and opportunities and pathways out there. Helping folks find what's right for them it's a conversation. It's not a point and click. And so that's the challenge around becoming an educator. But I do want to say that I've been working with Executive Director Sandy and our chair, Grinnell Shire, on the Educator Workforce Collaborative. And that has been it's amazing work. And the roadmap has been a part of it. And so that kind of sits in this larger work of folks from CDE, CTC, the Student Aid Commission, higher ed folks from CSU, UC, independent and private schools, all coming together to say, what can we do to address our teacher shortage? What can we do to recruit and retain more teachers into this field? And so your work is so important in terms of helping way to this work. It's just to be aware that there are larger forces that are also trying to figure this out, and we're all kind of fitting together, which is great. It's not separate and siloed work. It is integrated work across the state and across agencies, and working with folks in the field. I'm excited about that. In addition to the roadmap, looking at financial, it's kind of the largest barrier that our candidates are facing is how do we pay for this? And so looking at financial pathways both for candidates, but also for programs. We're all working together to support this work. I know that I want to say it was 2023. CDE hosted our teacher recruitment summit. We pulled folks together to say, what are we doing? This is it. What we have right now is not working. We want the best for California's kids. There are not teachers in classrooms. They're not getting the best education they should be. And so I just wanted to share our appreciation. It's the beginning of the counselors. I think they did hire 3 at that point. Angel, you were there, and you were there. Thank you. So there were folks who were there and lended a voice and solidified, yes, this is a thing, and we're hiring people through CTC. So that was really exciting as well. So I just want to lift this work up. I also want to thank our legislature and our state superintendent just for the push and the support, and Executive Director Sandy, just the push and support around securing this funding so that we can address a major barrier. Thank you.
Sharon.
Wow, I know we're not supposed to repeat things that our fellow commissioners have said, but I'm just gonna take the prerogative of chair to repeat the kudos to this team. This work is phenomenal. I mean, it really is. And it has the potential to be a national model for how we get information, usable information, in the hands of future teachers. So on behalf of all the future teachers and the students they serve, thank you very much. You've heard some great feedback from the public as well as from commissioners, and I know you'll take that to heart, and I look forward to your next update as well.
Okay, so since everybody has said so much, I will limit my fanboying to say it really is amazingly cool. I think that okay, I started as a credential analyst in 1986, taught by Linda Depew from Cal State Northridge. Even before I was a math teacher, I was doing career counseling for Cal State Northridge. So I can tell you, if I had had this, my life would have been so much easier. So, but given that I did do it for a long time and over the years have had many credential analysts that work for me, one of the things I always have them do is give them sort of the garbage in, garbage out statement. Because a lot of the times when people may be dissatisfied, it's really because they didn't give you the whole picture. They didn't give you all the information. So how do you sort of protect us from that when you're doing this counseling?
To prevent people from only getting piece of the information.
Do you say something like, I know at the bottom of the commission emails, there's always that statement that says that it's based upon the information provided and is only as accurate as the information that you get?
Currently.
I think what really helps is that we can have, it's a little more difficult to give the full view of things through an email, but when someone requests a phone call or a video chat, they can keep asking questions and we just keep answering, and we really give them we try our best to give them a full view, because it isn't about answering their immediate question. We're like, okay, you're here and you get to go one more step. It's like, okay, you're here, then there's this step, and then here's what's coming next. And trying to present everything in a way that is accessible and that it isn't like overwhelming, but they do know it's like there is something called induction. Once you get your preliminary, here's the thing. Because we do hear from a lot of people, I mean, they'll reach out to us and they're like, I'm about to recommend it to my preliminary. What now? It's like, wow, you don't know. Great, we can help you with that. So it really is about the interaction and about the fact that this group has the time and the resources to have those conversations as opposed to just firing off like a direct answer to a direct question.
And another thing is, back in my day, I would not, it was before CTE, it was vocab. I would not answer vocab questions. It was just so complicated. How do you deal with the variety? I mean, there's every flavor of credential on this thing. How do you deal with that?
So let me say something amazing about this team. They're made up of former educators. So we have 4 teachers on the staff. They're made up of former district credential analysts. So we have perspective of LEAs and employers. And then also really seasoned certification analysts. So our most knowledgeable analysts are serving on this team. So Angel has the ability when an inquiry comes in to identify who the best person on the team would be to help that individual based on their questions. So he can triage those, and he does triage those to, have that individual lined up with the right person for their situation and for their questions. And so with the team having such broad perspective and such vast experience, so many of them have gone through the process from start to finish. They've gone through teacher preparation and understand the questions they had when they went through it, as well as the folks that have come in and had their career in certification. They know all of the questions that people ask because they've been answering them for years and years. So just having that perspective, I think, that's how they answer those CTE questions because they've been doing it for so long and they are truly the experts for licensure in the state of California.
Now, how do you handle it when, like, I was thinking about some of the Michael's questions, where that I know when I was a credentialist, people would ask me about getting tenure. And it was like, well, that's not really a credential question. or they would ask about salary credit. You know, how do you deal with those kinds of questions?
We simply direct them to their employer. I mean, that's outside of the purview of us at the state level. And that, there's certain, trends that we hear, for example, if you have a clear credential, you may be set in a different salary scale or, certain amount of years of experience. That's all completely variable based on the employer. So we couldn't possibly give such a specific answer to any one person asking about, salary or how any sort of different certification will increase their salary.
Another thing that often came up was figuring out which program you're going to go to, because some of them are faster than others, but some of them are cheaper than others. So do you go through that kind of balancing with the candidates?
That's pretty much the meat of it. Yeah, that's 90% of all the conversations we have are, it's the fact that it's not so simple as here are the programs, just close your eyes, pick any program, right? It's individualized depending on, are you a career changer? Do you need to get this done as fast as possible with as little as cost as possible? Or are you more interested in the traditional route and you want to take your time, you need more time to pass the CSATs, for example. So you're going to choose traditional route as opposed to an intern route. It depends on the person you're talking to, which is why I think there was such a large need for one-on-one conversations with people. They weren't really, that part was missing before.
Well, and that the same person is tracking them over time, I think is just amazing. And I think that we are done. Just thank you. It's amazing work. And this is an information item and no action is needed. So thank you all.
Thank you.
No additional items today. I adjourn the certification committee.
And I would suggest we take a 10-minute break and then we'll reconvene for the educator preparation. Next is the educator prep.